I think he might be on. Oh, he is right there. Want me to ask? All right. Let's see. Can we get it in the room? Want me to try again? Okay. Brian Vokes, can you hear us online? I can't hear us in the room though.
I can hear you. Can you hear
Okay,
me?
thank you. So we can be heard online, but not in the room yet.
Do we need to hold or table number 22 until after closed session? We've got more offers coming in.
No, I know we have a closed session
Dave?
for it.
Do we need to hold number 22 until after the closed session? We need to table item number 22 until after the closed session. It's for the sale of real property.
All right, can the room hear me now?
Okay. Okay, table that, okay.
Yes? Okay. All right, welcome this afternoon to our Board of County Commissioners meeting. Oh, it's not recording yet? Okay, we will pause as we're trying to get it record. All right, welcome this afternoon to our Board of County Commissioners meeting. And as always, we start with a prayer, reading, or thought, and the Pledge of Allegiance. And we have a volunteer for the prayer, reading, or thought, Spencer Cooper. And if he would come up, that'd be great. Thank you, Spencer. Is there a volunteer to lead us in the pledge? Oh, Ben? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
That's called
Spencer,
being voluntold.
please.
Right here?
Yes.
My name is Spencer Cooper. I'm the chaplain with the state of Utah from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I work right now out of the state hospital as well as the Utah Air National Guard. I'm here by request of the governor, as I understand, to pray for rain, most especially. But I appreciate you having us. So
Thank you.
let's pray. Eternal Father and God of this nation that we love, we bow our heads humbly today in response to the extreme and historic drought that we are in. We are sombered by this historic drought and the needs of our citizens as we face and confront the challenges that brings. We pray for this body that meets today to address that and many other such issues that concern all of our citizens here in the great state of Utah. Father, we ask that thou would extend thy hand and enlighten our minds that we can understand the things we need to do as citizens to improve our resourcefulness with this precious, valuable commodity that we have so little of here in the state of Utah. We understand how it affects every facet of our lives. We recognize and humbly acknowledge our previous misuse of such resources at times, and before thee humbly repent and ask forgiveness that we have not been better stewards till now. Please inspire us, Father, to understand how to be better, to give us ideas and inspiration, especially those who think of these things and work on them every day. Help them to be guided and to understand and be innovative. Most especially, Father, we ask that thou would extend thy hand and send us more water. We desperately need rain to get through this summer. And as we do so, we'll challenge ourselves, Father, to be better citizens to one another, better neighbors at this time when many are divided, politically and otherwise. We pray that we might be kind and recognize the humanity in each other and understand that that which connects us in humanity is also the thing which we all need. that sustains us just like water. And we pray for all these things humbly and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you.
Please repeat the pledge with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Chaplain, for that, and also for leading us in the pledge. We're going to start with a recognition. Commissioner Sakovic.
Lorraine Reynolds of Utah County Sheriff's Department has been nominated as Employee of the Month. She's been an employee of the Sheriff's Office since September 2004. She is currently assigned as Office Manager in the Patrol Division. She currently serves and supervises several clerical staff members within that division and oversees the demands for numerous deputies. Lorraine's ability to effectively, honestly communicate well with all those that she encounters is a great attribute, and she is diligent in improving situations and lends a hand to others, both inside and outside the Sheriff's Office, to influence a net positive outcome for everyone. Lorraine, has interacted with the public on multiple occasions and is a consummate professional and is consistently respectful and courteous. She embodies the core values of the Sheriff's Office, an example for everyone that she encounters. She is well organized and seems to always have an effective solution to questions or problems which may arise. Lorraine's willingness to help others is exceptional and goes out of her way to do so. She has numerous responsibilities within the division, include payroll and budget issues, compiling and forwarding reports to appropriate places and departments, purchase orders, gather bids for items when required, oversees the Sheriff's Office Records Department, grandma expungement requests, and many other assignments, too countless to name. Lorraine is a great asset to patrol due to her work ethic and dedication to her job, as well as her willingness to assist others, and with the professional attitude she embodies 24/7. It's impossible to articulate her responsibilities and assignments effectively. She's an exceptional co-worker and friend and very deserving of this recognition. Sincerely, Lieutenant Sean Cowden.
Come on up.
Come up.
And if you'd like to say a few words, you're more than welcome to.
Speech. Well, I do work with great people and have great family, so thanks for the great community to be working in and the great support we have from the county and the people. So thanks.
All right.
We get to take a picture with you now, so you have to come back up here. Over here, yeah. Thank you for your work.
We'll get there someday, right?
Yeah, that's for sure.
Right. We'll now go through our process of organizing our agenda. As you will see, our consent agenda is blank right now. We're going to fill that, I assume, by not holding items on the regular agenda. So if we hold it, going through the process, if we hold one of the numbers on the regular agenda, it will stay on the regular agenda. Everything else will go to the consent agenda to be either approved, accepted, or ratified as stated in the numbers. So starting with number, let's go 1 through 10 to look at first.
I don't have any items.
I don't either.
I would like to just hold item number 5 just for, I mean, it's one that I put on there, but I'd like to just highlight it. Okay. Okay, items number 11 through 20. Sheriff, do we need to hold number 14 at all or anything like that? Number 14, do we need to,
It's an anonymous donation.
yeah,
Yeah, we're good.
we're all right? Do you want us to? Okay. No?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Then I have nothing.
Nothing on 11 through 20? All right. Number 21, we'll have to hold for action. Number 22.
22 will need to table until after the closed sessions.
Table number 22.
Yep.
If we could hold number 23, since the chaplain's here, maybe he's gone. But anyway,
We can hold it.
It'd be good.
we'll hold,
It's not a bad one to
we'll hold
discuss.
23 for
Good, thank you.
number 24. It was asked by staff to continue that for 2 weeks. 2 weeks? Okay. I don't know what date that is, but 2 weeks from today.
Okay. 27, so we want to discuss that one. What
Hold
was
number
that?
27 and 28.
Mm-hmm.
Any others? All right. So I'll go back and just reiterate. Everything that we are holding will stay on the regular agenda. Everything else will either be ratified, approved, or as stated on the number, will go to consent for being consented to by all 3 commissioners as it's stated. So we're going to hold number 5. Number 21. Of course, number 22 is tabled. That is technically kind of a hold. Number 23,
Continuing 24.
24 is continued, 27 is a hold, 28 is a hold.
That's what I've got.
And then if we can also for consent, we're going to set a date, time, and location for a closed meeting for today's date at this location following our regular agenda for items number 29. I don't have, unless commissioners, you have 30 I don't have that one as a request. So that one can be,
Strike.
we can strike that one. 31 will be held, and number 32.
That's what I have as well.
Okay. Okay, now that our agenda is organized, is there any comment to those that we have consented to or approved? Seeing none, we'll go to item number 5. And Richard, I'll just kind of state this one unless, well, come on up. We worked together on this one.
You're just talking quiet enough. I can't hear you.
So this one here is deals with the equestrian park.
Yes.
And what it's doing is it's forming a committee, and the committee is. Oh, wait a second.
This one's not the committee. This is the.
This is the wrong one.
Yeah,
This
the
is
committee
the-
was item number
Yeah,
3.
yeah. Okay, right. I'm skipping ahead.
Okay.
So this one here is to allow for commercial events to happen. But what it's doing though is all it is directing. It's just a direction. It's not. We're actually not setting that right now. We're directing Public Works to develop a plan and put that in place. for consideration, for the, and that's why you see all the different documents that are on there. There's documents on there of the old ones. We'll probably have to do a major upgrade. There's a lot of names on there that are probably, that I know are not here anymore, and upgrade. And I would assume, since we have already set the committee in place, that there might be other modifications, but at least this will start a process that we've identified as an immediate need to look at.
And I would think we'd want to start this process, but I do think we want to have some committee input before we bring it back to the commission.
Right. So that's what this is. This is just a direct Public Works Department to start that process of looking at it and in going down through it. I would assume that there might be others coming down the pike on it, but at least this will start the process.
Sounds good.
Is this what, about a month, 2 months process?
No, I guess it kind of depends on what all we have to do. Now, Bryce, do you know if we have to go to the planning commission on this or just, okay.
No.
So I think in a couple of months, we should be okay.
Okay.
Hopefully, we'll kind of see where we go with the committee and how often we can get that group together and go from there.
Because it's not a conditional use anymore, so it's just an administrative action, or legislative too. Yeah. Okay.
So I'll make a motion to adopt agenda item 5.
I'll second that motion.
I got a motion and a second to approve agenda item number 5. All in favor, say aye.
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 That passes 3-0. Okay. Number 21 is to set a date, time, and location for a public hearing to consider amending the 2021 budget and the general funds and so forth as stated there for Wednesday, June 23rd, 2021 at 2 p.m. in this room, County Administration Building. This will probably be, I would assume this would be at the same time that we are considering possibly, I don't know if we've got the information from the state yet, but also looking at the tax rate. So it'd be the same day is what we're anticipating.
Yes, that's correct. I mean, the tax rate might be delayed another week past that, but this hearing could also be continued for a week if necessary. So, but this is the date that's suggested.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Okay, a motion?
I'll make a motion we adopt agenda item 21.
I'll second that motion.
I got a motion and a second to set that date, time, and location as stated. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0. Okay, Richard, here we go again. So I called Richard up last week, I think it was, and this one, number 23 is to adopt a resolution implementing the water conservation measures to address the drought situation. We did put forward that declaration of the emergency that we are in a drought. We realize that it looks like the governor has sent individuals to, specifically say prayers in commission meetings, which is fantastic. I'm glad that he's doing that. And this one is a follow-up measure on our part to show that we're not just stating it. We're actually going to do things that we have control over. We don't have control over the clouds, or else it would make it rain. But we do have control over sprinklers that artificially make it rain, and also other measures. And I want to emphasize the other measures because there was a lot that we talked about there. And I wanted to give you a chance, Richard, to talk about what we're looking at implementing, and that there's probably more in the future as we just kind of look at this and work down through it.
Yeah, and after the conversation with you, Commissioner, last week, I did reach out to my division managers that oversee both the grounds around our county facilities and in our parks that we manage through the county. Now, these are just county-owned facilities, the county buildings, county parks. It doesn't affect the cities or those, so those are on their own. What we've looked at is, and what you'll see in the resolution, we've got a plan that we think will help us reduce our water usage by 35 to 40%. It'll kind of vary from location to location. It'll depend on what the sprinkler systems are capable of and what the sprinkler systems actually water. One of the things you'll see in the resolution is that the trees and the perennial items that are a large investment and take many years to establish, that we don't want to run the risk of losing, those will be the priority for the watering, where something like the turf grass is a lower priority. It can go dormant, and as you see some of the parks and the facilities here, you may see some brown grass in areas, and that's okay. One of the things that we are going to look at here, especially on this campus, we have like the Freedom Festival that takes place here on this campus. What you'll likely see is just ahead of that and just after that, you'll see us doing some fairly heavy watering on the turf grass, just because if we let it go really dry and then put all that foot traffic on it, we will destroy it. So you'll see some of that. That'll kind of be a little bit of give and take here as we go throughout the summer. But we are looking at trying to do that 35 to 40% reduction in all of our water usage where we can on all of our landscaping. So we are looking longer term at taking some of the areas that are not used so much as turf grass and converting it to like a xeriscape type scenario. It's a low water use, some rock mulch, low water use plants, things like that. Different look than what the turf grass is, but it's something that helps quite a bit. We have, and xeriscape is probably not the right term for what we've done out at the security center on big swaths of land. It's more of a xeriscape, but we've taken large areas of grass out at the security center in Spanish Fork over the past several years and converted it to rock mulch and done some decorative work with the rocks, just simply to eliminate the amount of water used for grass that's not getting used. So that's something that we've been working on and systematically going through that. Our landscape team out to Spanish Fork has done that over the last 4 or 5 years and has done a good job with it.
I think that's great. I think I just saw that they've passed a law in Nevada that by 2027, these areas that have turf grass in them that aren't commonly used, like business parks and churches and schools, will be converted like that. And I love seeing us do that voluntarily without using a law to do it.
And they're the first driest. We're the second driest.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like seeing people do it voluntarily,
Right.
and us do it voluntarily rather than a mandate from the state or a law.
Yep.
So that's great.
Do you know how many gallons we use? I'm just when I
don't
say
off the top of my
35
head.
and 40%. I know somebody's going to ask me that
A
question.
lot, but I don't know the volume. I could find out, but I don't know it.
Yeah, okay.
But we have a substantial amount of landscape that we irrigate, so it is a substantial amount of water.
Yeah. But you're probably talking in the thousands or hundreds of thousands?
On a weekly basis, I would say we're in the hundreds of thousands of gallons.
On a weekly basis, hundreds of thousands. So 35 to 40%
When you take
of that.
all of our facilities into account. Now that some of those are coming, like this facility here, comes out of the Provo City system. Ones like, say, our Benjamin Park, it's on a well.
Yeah.
So we have different systems that
Right.
are all operated differently. So different water sources as well. So
That's weekly, hundreds of thousands on a weekly basis.
So 35% reduction is significant.
like a typical home lawn will use 3,000 or 4,000 gallons in a week. So
Yeah.
then you multiply that by the size that we have of grass, it's substantial.
Yeah.
Good.
And the 33% as opposed to 35% for the equestrian is because it's an animal location, you need more watering?
I don't have the resolution right
The
here in
back
front of
page,
me.
it just simply says equestrian park reduces by 33 and county, other county properties 35%. Just
Okay,
curious
that
about,
was actually on the work in the arenas, so we're going to try to cut that back. So we're still watering the arenas and doing that work on those, but reducing the amount of water that we put in there. And that's where the 33% comes in.
Okay.
Yep.
cities are independent of county, but is there any interlocal agreements we should pursue with the cities on something similar to this so that we're moving forward? Or do we need to communicate this standard perhaps to county residents, those within unincorporated areas?
I see a lot of movement in cities already. They're already moving in that direction.
Yes.
Independent, of anything that we're doing. And so the cities were the ones, there was a number of cities that came to me and said, we need to have that declaration. And so that was kind of the first step. And now I see some movement that they're starting to move in directions and doing similar stuff. And with their watering, I'm sure that they'll probably exceed ours in the way of reductions in volume.
Yeah, and I think kind of along what Commissioner Gardner said, the cities are going to be moving that way. It's nice that we're out in front of this rather than waiting for the city to tell us, okay, you're on city water, you've got to cut your water usage back. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, true. Very
But
good.
again, do we need to send something out like an email declaration to the residents within unincorporated areas? Just to ask them, not dictate, not pass a county ordinance, but request that the residents consider cutting back to.
I think it's difficult if you're looking at unincorporated areas. They actually typically own water shares.
Yes.
And if they don't use it, they lose it. So I think what would actually be good, maybe a good thing would be for us to maybe pass a resolution to our legislators that encourages them to look at the way that water rights are in our state. I know that farmers and residents, if you own water shares and you don't use it, the state makes you lose it, and so you're incentivized to use more water. So I would be open to us writing a resolution to our Utah County legislators to say, we encourage you to look at the laws that govern water shares so that in drought years, people can reduce their use or lease their use to cities without being penalized.
Yeah.
Yes, because I'm taking consideration both those without water shares, those who are just using culinary systems that are available to them. I'm thinking of farmers that depend on irrigation water. There's multiple aspects to that, but I was just wondering if we could at least begin a discussion on how to do
Yeah.
that.
yeah,
Yeah, I think we
the vast majority of the county, unincorporated county residents are not on a central system. There's a
Right.
few.
Yeah.
Most of them are not. As far as the irrigators, the farmers, I was in a meeting about a month and a half or so ago with several of the irrigation companies in the south end of the valley. They are very keenly aware of this and are already putting measures in place for reduction of water just because they simply don't have it available to them.
They're going to have a hard time just keeping their crops going.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
ranchers are too, and they'll get very creative
Yes.
in finding water sources when it starts to go down. They'll
Yeah.
do recycling. They'll do all kinds of measures to keep things moving. So
Yeah.
they're probably conserving on a pretty massive scale already, trying to make sure it all works for
Yeah.
them.
They've got generations and decades of experience with this reoccurring event.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know, Richard, you might not want to go too far. The next item. Well, the next one is the capital planning policy.
Let's
We'll
have a
go ahead
motion.
and adopt.
Oh, okay.
A motion on 23.
Yeah, I'll move to adopt that.
I'll second that motion.
And a motion and a second to adopt the resolution as stated on number 23. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0. Okay. Number 27 is to approve and authorize the signing of a resolution amending the Utah County Capital Planning Policy. I realize with this one, if I can just kind of tee it up a little bit,
Absolutely.
that there's that this is a process in place. We're trying to get there. I also fully realize that the capital planning policy adjustment or amendment is pretty new. I want to recognize that. I get that. I have no problems if we want to continue for more digestion of it. But I think it would be nice for us, since we have it in place, we have something before us, to have some general discussion about it.
Absolutely.
To kind of get an understanding of where it's coming from and why. And that way, it's not left to just a thought or an interpretation.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I wanted to make a quick comment on that as well. This is an idea that I put forward last week. I had some suggestions and I had some goals with that. We continued it for a week so that you would have a chance to look at it. You came back with some suggestions. I think they're great suggestions. I think this is a good example of, if we do this over the course of several weeks and have people look at it, that I think the suggestions that you came back with incorporate everything I wanted, and I think it improves upon it. So I want to let you know that I appreciate the work you put into this, and I think that what you came back with accomplishes my goals and even puts more process to it. And I, as a process-oriented person, I appreciate that. So thank you for your work on this issue.
Thank you.
And so I just wanted to quickly ask three of the people that typically have these, that's Rudy and Richard and Patrick. Just really quickly, have you had a chance to look at this, and do you have any issues with it? And if you haven't had a chance to look at it, that's fine. I just want to know. Okay.
And,
No.
and Patrick and I actually were in a meeting while this came out.
Okay.
I did have a chance to read through it before we came here, and at first glance, there are a few things that I would modify a little bit on, but for the most part, I don't think we'll have any issues with it. But there are a few other modifications that the committee has already been discussing that we would like to see included in an adjustment to the plan. So if we could have a little bit more time to work through this and get you guys feedback, that would be awesome, because we really are, the whole point of this is trying to make the county better and our
Right.
operations better. And that's anything we can do to make that better, we're all for it, and let's go for it and make that. But I like the way of interactive process here, so we can do this. And I think I don't think there was nothing in there that I had a major exception about. There are a few little modifications to words and things that I think slight to
lawyer?
the process, huh? No, it's because we're not going to be.
I thought we hired
for
a CPA,
instance,
not a lawyer.
just because it references the project submittal request form, we're not doing it that way. We've changed the process slightly. So it's just a modification to some of that and a few other things in there that we've been wanting to do anyway. So yeah.
Perfect.
So this looks like a great step forward. And so we'll just, if we can, we'll work on it a little bit more and come to a better, better product here at the end.
So Commissioner, some of your thoughts? I would love to kind of step down through and give you a little bit of the thought process behind it for me. And then a little understanding of the whys.
I spent some time with our civil division and with the senior policy advisor and myself, and we wanted to ensure that when there's an issue that happens that is short notice, that there isn't a delaying process. Once the legislative session and process is done, everything's out in the open, it's transparent, the public knows what we're up to doing. If we see, say, a piece of lumber as it has jump, even more, do we want to pause that? If we delay very long, we may miss out on opportunities to stop a project, pause a project, pay the penalty if we must, but pause the project before going forward, depending on prices of goods, prices of services, any number of things that might come up. I just want to make sure that the members of the board aren't handicapped by this. So I've started to review this, and I just want to make sure that I'm comfortable with all the language within it.
Well, I hope everything you said there was of top of mind for me as well. And so maybe if we can just I'll just give some highlights to it. I'll just go page by page with it. The whereases, I'm not going to go over that. That's just the whereases. There was an additional one there. It actually says on mine, page 3.
Yeah, mine as well.
Okay, so on page 3, it just talks about the approval process. There is at the very bottom of it there. It says the very bottom paragraph, unless otherwise approved by the board by resolution, funds cannot be spent on capital projects unless it is approved by the board as part of the CIP. Funds cannot be transferred from the approved annual capital budget for the capital improvement plan or the capital projects fund unless approved by the board by resolution. It starts as a legislative action. And when we start it as a legislative action and we approve it, we put it into the categories of funding that makes sense. And I think if we're going to be changing that it should go back to its original, which is a legislative action.
I agree.
So that's kind of the thinking on that one. So
Yep.
now on page 4, I'm not going to go through what was on there. I'm just the changes. Number 4 is the big one that was modified. But the intent was not to necessarily change what was in there. So if you go down to the bottom and you see where it says capital improvement, the capital improvement program shall provide, and then it had the A, B, C, D.
Yeah, on
in
page 5.
there.
Yeah.
It's not that's no good and we're striking it out. It was trying to incorporate it into a process,
Right.
and the process that can be put forward in a way is measured and understood. And there was a couple of things that I was looking at in looking at the older version of it, was there was things in this process that didn't flow all the way through to the commissioners for an initial look and keep going. This is a project that makes sense, and then from through the planning review committee, and then we put it onto a master plan, and the master plan then is the annual one at the end of the year. So we could have, for instance, Project A goes through this process, and the committee looks at it and recommends it. It then goes to the commissioners for a review. The commissioners look at it, and the commissioners say, yes, we also recommend it. That's not the annual. That's just a review to be put on the master plan. And then when we go through our annual process, the annual process is where we actually adopt it, because we look at all of the reviewed process, all the reviewed applications, and it may turn out that the applications are more than we have budget for, or there might be changes during the year that make sense for us to change, and we may have to modify according to the prioritization, which is in here too. So the projects are prioritized in a way that makes sense, so that if we do have funding restrictions, which can easily happen, or a change in some sort of policy or whatever happens, that we can go down through there and say, we only have enough money to go through, L or 20 or whatever it is.
Right.
And then the rest of them, although they were approved in this process before to be put onto the master plan, they're not adopted for that year, but they can still stay on there as a consideration for the future. That's kind of the process part of this, is to make sure that we have something like that in place. Now, if the committee also takes and says, we don't recommend this, it still comes to the commissioners, for the commissioners to look at it and review it. And if the commissioners think differently, then they can put it on the master plan for prioritization or for authorization. So that's the process, is that you have an acceptance both ways. That way a department head or a department may say, how come I never even got mine considered? It will go through that process to be considered both ways, either as a recommended or not.
And I did notice that this section that you had crossed out was incorporated above.
Yeah, it's all up there. It might be worded different, and there might be some, I don't know where Rudy went. Oh, anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there, okay. So there might be some words, that need to be, modified or changed or whatever on the case with that.
Okay.
So then you go to the CIP committee itself, and, we're asking that the committee meet regularly to validate and review, and that would be going through this initial process of review that would come to the commissioners probably whatever that regular meeting looks like. There might be a handful that come at the beginning of the year and in the middle of the year and the end of the year. So they're reviewing that.
Which I understand they're already doing anyway. So,
It's a living document.
Yep.
yeah.
And then prioritizing the capital projects, the request forms submitted. And you have a copy of
I have a copy of both.
the forms that the departments see, and so they're requesting those forms.
Yeah.
Then we go down to the bottom of 5, and this is one, and forgive me for my my mind when it comes to construction, because this is how I see things, and that is that there's flow charts. We would manage projects on a pretty extensive basis, and I know Richard does this all the time anyway. And the updates, to the program should be detailed enough that you have a CIP chart, or critical path management chart for every project up there that is tied back to a financial tone to it, and you can see it as it goes through a calendar year, so that it can be looked at to make sure. And that's the intent of this bottom part here, is that there's detailed updates, that we will see on a project. We get the spreadsheets, and we see the spreadsheets, and there's a little bit of wording in there, but I think it'd be nice to have a lot more in there in the way of the financial side of it, where we're at. Are we on target? Are we behind? Are we ahead? Have we gone through the planning phase? Are we already at the digging phase? Or are we already putting in the foundation? Whatever the case may be with it, so it's detailed enough that we know where we're at, and it's not just on an individual basis, but on a global basis with all the capital projects that are going on.
Yeah.
That's what this bottom part of 5 is intended to do, so that we can review it and have a snapshot. If it's Questica, if it's whatever tool that we have that allows us to go in there and see what is actually happening and where we're at in the process. And the question came up, what happens if you go through a project at the first of the year and you wind up with $100,000 at the end that you're under? So you have $100,000 in that account. Well, we have in here that you can't just transfer it. It has to come back to the commission to transfer that money. If we have another project that maybe is $100,000 over, that would give us the snapshots that we're looking for, so we could say $100,000 that we didn't spend on this one, we need to transfer that one to this one, and that would allow us to see that whole process and then flow it, probably according to the prioritizations as well that are going on. So that's kind of what that paragraph is. And then 6, the intent of this, and a lot of this language was in there originally, so there's not, but it says, upon approval of the CIP, the annual capital budget, no additional authorization is needed from the board for the county departments to begin their procurement process or to implement processes for the approved and appropriated projects in the CIP. That's to give a little bit of finality once it's been approved, that you can start that process and move down through it. If the board desires to add, now we're going to separate between what is a legislative action and what is an administrative action with these next ones. So if the board desires to add, meaning that at the first of the year we have a capital improvement plan that has been adopted and authorized, and that's set. If the board says, you know what, this one came in and we need another project, it has to come on a resolution because it started in a legislative manner, so it has to come on in a legislative manner. Or if we want to remove one of the projects, again, legislatively, we can remove that, which means it comes to the commission. So remove a project from the CIP or change the project prioritization of the CIP. That wording, I'll just tell you, I'm not quite sure on that one. That one we could probably work with a little bit. But anyway, these are legislative actions, then the board shall do by resolution. The second paragraph, or the next paragraph down, if the board desires to delay the implementation, modify the scope, or issue a change order in an approved project within the CIP, then the board shall send a letter to the CIP committee and to the affected departments, which letter shall first be presented to all members. All members of the commission is so that we all see it, and there has to be at least two signers. This is looked at in construction word, in my opinion, is more like a change order. You know, if there's a change order during the process, during the time, and I want to give maybe a real life example to this. We have put money towards Bridalveil Falls. We have money sitting up there that we have appropriated and approved. But there's dynamics that are changing all the time. $150,000 comes from the state. We have a grant that comes in. There's an appetite, I feel, on the county commission for maybe a modification of what we're actually going to do this year so that we can leverage that with the state into the future. So that would be an example of an administrative action, not a legislative action, more like a change order that is modifying or changing, things within that scope and within those parameters. The transparency one, cash flow, those were left the same, capital project funds and debt assurance. So that was kind of the thinking in working down through it. It's more of a process based that's a little bit more of defined into policy. So we'll take out some of the ambiguity to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that we just adopted this in the last few years, having a formal, so I think as we go through
2019.
and 2019. And so having gone through the process for a few years, we now understand it a little better, and I think this makes perfect sense. I agree with all of those changes.
Okay.
You've captured much of what I talked with the legal advice a few days ago, so this has been very helpful. I want to continue to digest this a little bit longer.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, with that, I will make a motion to continue for 1 week.
I can second that motion.
I get a motion and a second to continue item number 27 for one. Can I do a clarifying on this for 1 week? We have documents in there. Do we want to continue this document?
Yes.
Okay. So
So I'll make a motion to continue this with the document uploaded by Commissioner Lee
okay.
for 1 week.
And is 1 week should suffice?
Sure. I think so.
I think so. Rudy, would 1 week suffice, or do you want 2? So that you can meet with
Some
the
of the
committee.
legal counsel is out of town this week, so I was just curious to.
I think next week would be fine. One thing I would request though is that I know we have the document uploaded in there as a PDF, but if you could get us a copy in a Word document so that we can add our, suggestions in there as well.
Oh yeah. You can contact Brian and
Yeah.
he'll give that to you for sure.
Yeah, no, I think these are great adjustments here. There's some of them that really, I think were needed and things we hadn't talked about, but there's a few others we'll put in there as well.
Okay.
All right.
So
Okay,
1
so
week.
so 1 week would be fine.
So I do have a motion.
So I can second the motion for June 16th then. Continue this through June 16th.
Yeah. I got a motion and a second to continue this
For 1 week.
1 week. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That is continued for 1 week. Okay. Number 28 is to authorize a change in the staffing plan, the Recorder's Office. We did have a work session on this item, was it last week?
Mm-hmm.
Last week. And so we've been going through this issue, trying to find balance to it. Andrea, did you want to, I know we had the work session, but would definitely want to give you an opportunity to speak to it.
Andrea Allen, County Recorder. Questions? We pretty much went over everything in the work session, so unless you have additional questions,
I've
that
got
I
a
can
couple of
answer for you.
additional questions.
You bet.
So what's the total documents for 2020? Do you know that?
I do know that.
I knew you would.
Total documents for 2020 are, hold on, because I've got 8 different questions of numbers.
210,719.
719. Thanks, Josh.
We've worked with
210.
Andrea
We have
intensely in
719.
analyzing
I've
data,
got so many numbers in my head that I have to go to the paper so I don't misquote. But yes, 210, 719.
Okay. Okay.
So I'll just make a quick comment. I actually called up Adam Gardner, who's the former county recorder in Salt Lake County, and I asked him about their numbers and their numbers on trending and how many staff they have. And I looked at our current staff, the staff that we have, and I did some math, me and my engineering self. I did ratios, and I actually found that if you look at Weber County, Davis County, Salt Lake County, and Utah County, and you look at the numbers of documents that they record and the number of staffers they have, that it would actually justify us hiring 20 employees. So I think the 17 is under what, and that's for 2020 numbers. We are actually seeing an increase in 2021. So I looked at this.
What were the numbers you used on that? Just curious.
So I don't have, well, I do have some of them. So Adam Gardner said that in 2018, that they recorded, Salt Lake County recorded 258,000 documents. And their staffing levels were 20% higher than the ratio of ours. So the number of employees that they had in 2018 to record 258,000 documents, if we did like for like, is actually 20% less than what Andrea is requesting. So Plus, we're looking to have even more in 2021 than in 2020. So I looked at that even with the request of 17, if you compare that, it's still Utah County doing more with less, because what we're requesting is 20% less staff per document than the other counties have.
Correct.
So Salt Lake County says that at the beginning of 2021, they have 46 county employees, 3 temporary that are no longer there, and they currently have 45 filled positions with 4 vacant positions, and they're going to be they're hoping to be adding 4 new. So the 4 new on there would put them at 49.
Yeah, and which I think Adam had said they were at like 42 in 2018. So they've added significantly since 2018. On top of that, they actually allow quite a bit of money in overtime. When I talked to him in 2018, they spent over $50,000 on overtime to get things recorded.
Right.
Which is, not necessarily something that we do.
We haven't used that much overtime. There's been burnout issues as well, so that has handicapped whether or not they're going to use overtime. Trying to get caught up, and it's teams of 3, right? Receiving, mapping, and then recording.
Correct.
So 1 team of 3 people. That's what you're looking at. I'm sorry.
No.
There are no. What I'm trying to say, there's 5 teams. There's 3 per team, correct? 1 receiving, 1 mapping, another 1 foddering.
There are 3 different teams, yes, that touch a document.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
There are 3 different areas that touch the document and process a different portion of that document.
So you're looking for 5 teams then, right? Well, there's 3 teams.
We're
for
looking
5
to
individuals for
increase
each team.
those 3 areas. 6 in entry recording, 7 in mapping, and 2 in customer service.
Yeah.
To facilitate the increase and to become state compliant with the fees that are generated specifically for that process.
And so how many employees do you have currently?
Currently, we have 30 on the team. We have open positions that are just
staffing
recruiting to be filled.
How many on that, on your staffing plan?
On the staffing plan would be 34.
34? Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that includes the 3 of us that don't process specifically the documents that oversee the administration.
So
Are
31,
included in that 34.
31 are actually doing the work.
Correct.
Right. And then it would be 15 doing the work to IT is what you're asking to have.
Correct.
Again, what was this document's total?
For 2020,
2020?
210,719.
110, okay.
So I think we all see the need for additional staff to work through and get in compliance. I too have called and got a hold of a lot of recorders throughout the state, because you mentioned that they're all out of compliance as well and working through it. One theme was pretty sure, and that is that they're all looking to do some sort of an adjustment. I was trying to find some sort of balance in there based off of what they were doing from, Salt Lake County. I mean, I did some of the smaller ones too, and they came back with some pretty interesting analyses. They said anytime that you have under 10 staff, just recording those documents, you're going to get a lot less, just because of the dynamics of it. So we had to separate between the smaller counties and the larger counties because of the efficiencies and the dynamics that happen. So although I did look at the ones that were less than 10 just to see what they're doing on a regular basis, I was more focused on the larger counties that had more than 10. And congratulations to what I have on, this is a 2015 to 2019 average per year when it talks about total documents per staff, realizing that I don't have the 2020, now I do have the 2020 numbers. And Utah County is up there really high in total documents per staff at 5,357, which I think is number one. I don't have all of them on there, but it's significantly higher.
That's funny because I did my
It's-
analysis different and I came to the same conclusion that you did.
Right. We have done this analysis so many times, so many different ways, and we generally come up to the same number
Yep.
of staff that is needed.
Well,
to-
let me finish because I don't know if I came to the same conclusion.
Which is fine.
That's the
I'm
that's
sure
the
you
issue.
did not.
Okay. So in looking at that, I asked, where do you get your measurements from? How do you tag an employee's productivity and a work hour rate that makes sense where it can be measured? And so basically, you're performing at a higher level than the others, but any county that's doing more or has more than 10, they figure at about 5,000 roughly, 4,900 to 5,000. So I did the 5,000 per employee. So if I take the 5,000 per employee, divide the 210,719 for 5,000 documents, that puts us at 42 employees, which is the standard that the other recorders are kind of saying that they measure to make sure that they're staffing at that level. So if we're at 34, that puts us at 8 at the 42.
Can I interrupt, Andrea? Because we did this analysis with you.
You bet.
So the 210,000 is the 2020 actual recorded documents. Something that's important to keep in mind is that just because a document is recorded doesn't mean the document has been fully processed according to the law. So each year, the recorder's office actually carries over their work from the previous year into the next year before all the processing is finished with the document. And so they've kept some statistics, and we crunched the numbers. And so, for example, this year, they were not complete with the processing required from 2020 recorded documents until well into March.
March 23rd.
Which puts them at 23% of the year, of this year that's been spent processing last year's documents, which amounts to about 48,000 documents that needed to be processed this year from last year. If you look at the rate of recordings, and this is really relevant because our office, the clerk's office, we facilitate the filming of all the documents that are recorded. So we actually have to be able to anticipate how much filming we're going to have to do based on the current output of the recorded documents. They're on track for this year to record 243,000 documents. So if they record 243,000 documents, and they have a goal of processing those documents this calendar year, then you have to add the work burden from the 48,000 documents. You're now looking at the recorder's office having to process 290,000 documents in year 2021 to be compliant with the law. So if you do the math with the 5,000, then they actually need 58 total employees this year.
That's what I came to as well.
And so this is interesting because this is what I was asking for when you came to my office. I said, I
Right.
need you to verify to me why 15 plus the 2. I didn't get that, so I'm going through the process of trying to figure it out
Right.
on my own. Here's the conflict, though, with that kind of an analysis. If we're going to catch up with 15 new employees, and you said a year and a half we're going to catch up, that means they
I'm
have to
hoping
work.
to,
And
yes.
if they're working 40-hour weeks, to get caught up to that, eventually we're going to wind up where we're caught up. But to get there, you're going to have to do more documents than you've done in the past to get to that point in a 40-hour week. So after that after that year and a half is over with, now you have employees that are there that are working less than 40-hour weeks technically because the workload has changed because now you're caught up according to what Josh is saying on the backlog.
Except for you said that on average, each employee should be able to do 5,000 documents. And according to what was carried over into this year, we need 58 employees. And they only currently, that would mean we would need to add 24 employees, and we're only adding 15 employees, which means that we're still 14 employees short. So what she's asking for is, according to your numbers of 5,000 per employee, we're still 14 employees short,
Right.
which means that which means we're not going to have the problem that you're talking about. We're not going to have the problem where we get to the end and all of a sudden we have people twiddling their thumbs at the end of 2022, because we're literally asking for 14 less employees than we actually need according to your own calculation.
And you would actually need more because you're halfway through the year. So 58 employees assumes that they have 58 employees on staff for the entirety of 2021. But we're halfway through 2021 already.
Right. So my guess
you'd
would
have to
be,
actually go more into the 60s to actually get caught up by the end of 2021.
and my guess is that we're not going to have less documents recorded this year. And I don't think we're going to have less documents recorded in 2022 or less recorded documents in 2023. And so, whereas if we were going based off of how many documents we have recorded, I think that your assumption is absolutely correct. But considering that we are almost 3 months behind, and it's going to take several years to catch up from that 3 months behind, and add to that we're continuing to grow as a county, my guess is 3 years from now, you're going to be coming and asking for more employees. Not that we're going to have people twiddling their thumbs.
We would not have people twiddling their thumbs. We're hyper-focused, and reasonably so, because the recording is the bulk function. But there are functions in our office that are on a lower priority. This is our extreme high priority, is these recording documents. But we also have functions that we do that have been put on a lower priority that still need to be done. There are years and years of documents that are not indexed. There is
Yeah, there's the older.
a lot of
much
information
older.
that the LDS Church came in and scanned and gave to us for free. It's not indexed. It's dumped into the system, and it needs to be indexed so that it is user-friendly, so that people don't have to come into our office to look into the old books. We've got the data, but we don't have the personnel to get it indexed, to get it online to where it is usable.
So beyond
there
the
are
older documents,
functions-
are there newer documents that there are actions that you're not performing on those newer documents?
Not in the last 2 years, but prior, yes.
Okay.
And we've been trying to add them in to get those caught up as well. They're a medium to medium high priority,
Okay.
because they are more current documents.
So this is, again, I'm going to go back. I asked you for the documentation.
Right,
that-
and I have just finished compiling some of it. I've
Okay,
been
so
scrambling
I haven't
to
seen,
get that
I
to
haven't
you.
seen this. So obviously there's some other, analyses that are going on. I haven't seen it. I want to be reasonable with this.
Right.
And according to what I'm seeing and talking with other recorders on how they're doing it, I mean, they're adding 4, maybe a handful, and they're out of compliance as well. There's a lot of things that don't quite make sense, but I'd like to see the analysis so I could work it through the process as well. Otherwise, it does not look like, it looks to me like I would like to do a step towards it, and then we work towards it, use overtime, to see if we can help to get caught up with that. I mean, there's been years in the past in which we've never used any overtime at all. Even last year, 0.
So I have a question.
0 over, hold on. So 0 on the overtime side of this thing. And it seems to me on a management side, there's some tools that are available to us. There's, the overtime to get caught up. There's, and working with temporary staffing that comes in to help get caught up. I'm not necessarily saying that you can do that because yours is a more specialty thing, but I'm just saying usually you have those tools to do it. You hire temporary employees to catch up on the areas, or you do a combination of hiring as well. So you make sure and get to that mark at the end where you're actually going forward. IT is going to be a big one. I think that's a big one with the 2 staffers there. Totally on board with that. I think that will help to make it. But my whole point is that I'm out here trying to figure out these numbers without an analysis, which I asked for, so that I can get to an area.
And you did ask for that, and I had talked over some numbers earlier with your policy advisor as to how we were coming with these numbers. And yes, I did not get you the most recent iteration of what you had asked me for because I've been trying to crunch those different numbers to get that information to you. So you're correct. I have not updated you since I spoke with you Tuesday of last week. I did not get you what you had asked for at that point, but I had given you my presentation last Tuesday.
Right.
So,
So now I understand that was it 2007, 2008, we riffed a bunch of employees
Correct,
from
10.
your department. 10 employees were
in
riffed from your department.
2008, yes.
Okay. What were your staffing levels at before that riff?
36,
So you had 36 and now you have 34.
correct.
So 15 years later, we've grown by 30% as a county and you have less employees now than you did then.
Correct.
Okay. Were you compliant when they were riffed?
No,
So we riffed 10 employees in 2007, 2008, and you weren't
Eight.
compliant at that time.
correct,
And you now have less 15 years later.
correct.
And we have 25%, actually 10 years ago, we had 26% growth. So if I had to guess, I would say that 15 years ago, we probably had closer to 17, 18% more people in this county.
Correct.
Okay. Just check.
This is, I mean, it's an interesting analogy. And I think that's the reason why the state legislature has addressed this issue. And I also think that they've addressed this issue in a way, trying to get it back up to the compliance level. And I think if we were to do that same analysis with a Salt Lake County, which has, with their 46, employees that are on there, that's interesting considering how many documents that they're doing as well. I guess that's the whole thing is I don't want to necessarily be on an island with this thing. I want to do what's the right thing, but it's hard for me to make a decision on things when I get half the information.
So
or no information.
I did my analysis on Friday afternoon. We started it at 4 o'clock and didn't leave the office till 7 p.m. So I just did mine. We did 3 hours on Friday afternoon, which is probably why you haven't seen it yet. And I actually asked the auditor's office to come in and help me with that. So this is fairly new analysis because I felt the same way. I said, hey, if I'm going to vote on this, I want to have an analysis. So some of that's fairly new, but I want to kind of go back and revisit the RIF slightly. What was the reasoning? Do you know what the reasoning behind doing a RIF when you weren't even compliant with state code was?
Honestly, I do not recall the reasoning behind it. We were just mandated that we
It
reduced.
had everything to do with the crash of 2008.
Well, I'm pretty sure the
Right or
RIF came
wrongly,
in.
But that's what it was based on. So that's what it was based on. And the difference now is that they have a fee schedule that's far more equitable, matches what they're doing.
Okay. So speaking of your fee schedule that the state legislature addressed, would your fee schedule pay for this?
For what I'm asking?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. So the state legislature addressed this because we've had problems being compliant.
Correct.
With this ask, we're slightly over what we would have been 15 years ago, and we can pay for it.
Yes.
15 years ago. You didn't have 50 employees 15 years ago.
I did not have 50.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah,
asking
but
for
you're less
50.
now. And she's not asking.
I'm asking for 15 in my department and 2
Right.
IT. Total of 17, not 50.
Well, I mean, total.
Now, keep in
So
mind
total's gonna
that
be
none of the
close to
counties are
50.
incompliant and haven't been for years, if ever.
That is correct.
And so I don't want to, in this discussion, mislead the public to think that the Utah County is unique in this effort or this delinquency. This is universal and within the state.
But we could be unique in addressing
But
it.
we have the means to
could
correct it.
be.
And Commissioner Lee is looking for additional detail. I'm ready to motion to approve this as it stands.
And I'm ready to second that motion.
But at the same time, I want to pause to hear Commissioner Lee if he has anything else he wants to add on this.
Well, I would like at least the courtesy of having the information before I vote on it. If I don't have the information to vote on it, then I automatically have to go to a no vote to it because it doesn't make sense. The analysis that I've done with it now is just kind of a straightforward analysis with it. If there's more to it, I'd like to see the analysis.
Yeah.
Without seeing the analysis, My vote's only as good as the information that I have. The information I have right now does not support what's.
Yeah, I respect that. I, however, don't want this to wait another week. So I'm willing to make a motion to approve this, and I totally respect that. And if you need to vote no, I respect that as well. I did my own analysis on Friday night, so I've seen that information, so I feel comfortable voting on it. But if I were in your shoes, I would feel the same. So I don't fault that one bit. But I'm ready to make a motion, so I move that we approve I approve item number 28 as is.
I'd like to make a counter motion that we continue for 1 week to allow Commissioner Lee to have some additional details. We've motioned to continue other items in the past, including today, to allow other commissioners to have more in-depth review and give them some chance to have some more data. So I would motion to continue 1 week. I'm comfortable with that as it is, but I prefer to have all three of us to have more detail if possible. That would set you behind a week.
It will set us behind a week, and it sets us another week behind on open registers that we could be making offers on positions.
So you have open registers ready to fill. You have applicants on those. You've done interviews on those.
Correct.
And those people are probably finding other jobs right now.
That's
Correct.
why I'm making this counter motion to allow 1 week,
So
as
it's
difficult as it
been
is.
this will put it at 3 weeks,
Yes.
almost a month, and we probably will not be successful in recruiting those that we have already interviewed, which they didn't have a job before. They still don't now, apparently.
So we have competing motions, and Dave, I just turned to you on that one really quick.
I think the first motion, if it dies for lack of a second, then that would be the end of the first motion. And then Commissioner Sakovich's
Yeah.
motion would be present to see if there's a second to that motion.
Okay.
Then I will go ahead and make a motion. We continue this for 1 week.
So I will assume then that the first motion died for lack of second.
Yes.
Okay. And then I have a second motion that it continues for 1 week. I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No,
Aye. And opposed?
no.
So I've got two to continue at 1 week, Commissioner Lee and Commissioner Sakovic, and Commissioner Gardner for the negative.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I don't know when or who I'm going to get that information from.
I'll get it to you.
Okay. Okay. Now we're on the work session. The work session is regarding the well project for the North Fork Special Service District. And Commissioner Gardner, this is,
Yeah, so we've got we have the project for the North Fork Special Service District. That's kind of a tongue twister. Should we say that 8 times quickly? And I think this is something that we all know is needed. Obviously, with a huge drought facing us, we've got a big wildfire risk. So I think this is something that we've looked at several times. We've got people here that are prepared to address that. Would you like to just give us your input first?
Certainly. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you, Commission, for allowing us a few minutes. My name is Chad Linebaugh. I serve 2 roles. One, I'm the president and general manager of Sundance Resort, which of course is in the North Fork Special Services District. I'm also a board of trustee for the North Fork Special Services District. I do have a couple of colleagues here that I'll introduce as I go through the presentation. So if it's okay, may I take about 5 minutes and just walk through a brief presentation?
bet.
Wonderful, thank you. All right. Well, assuming that some of you may not know exactly what the North Fork Special Services District is, I just want to give you a quick overview. The services provided to the community, which is officially called the North Fork, many people refer to as Sundance, and it oversees the water, the wastewater, emergency services, fire protection, waste, and trash services for that area. So that would include, Aspen Grove down to the bottom of that canyon, including Sundance, and of course, a lot of residents. So what's the challenge? The current water sources are not able to supply enough water for future growth in the canyon, which includes commercial and residential. In 2019, the North Fork Special Services District had to impose a building moratorium for the entire canyon, prohibiting all development that requires a water connection. Sources are adequate for existing connections. However, when factoring in drought conditions, which we all know is the case, especially this year, even existing connections could be at risk. So during shortages, water policies put priority to residential connections, putting commercial connections at risk. So this could have a direct impact on tax revenue from Sundance and other commercial users in the canyon. So in order for the North Fork Special Services District to counter the drought and the limited existing water sources, an additional source is needed. So currently, the entire water system in that canyon is based on 2 springs. So what we believe needs to happen is a third source, being a well, needs to be developed. So to build and create infrastructure for this new well, whereas the community already has higher water rates, but those rates would need to increase even more. And this graph here shows a study that was done showing the North Fork Special Services District water rates in comparison even to a comparable mountain community like Alta, Salt Lake County, and of course other cities here in Utah County, just to kind of give a comparison for the existing water rates, which again could be at risk of even further increase. So our progress so far as a district is in 2014, water feasibility study was conducted to address the conditions, future growth, and potential sources. From this, it was determined a well would provide the best and most reliable water source. In conjunction with the proposed well, the community and district, we have worked hard and we've reduced water usage by over 50% in the last 2 years through conservation and addressing unaccounted for water. Also, the North Fork Special Services District has already received approval from the Forest Service for this new well site, which is just up past Aspen Grove, again on forest lands. So this is a shovel-ready project that just needs the funding. So our request in being here today is in order to ensure continued operation and future growth for both commercial and residential users, we request that the county and state provide funding to fast-track the development of a new well, which will directly benefit and impact tax revenue for Utah County. The total cost on this project is roughly $3 million, and so the hope is that we could seek funds of about $1.5 million from the county with matching funds from the state. So what I would like to do now is introduce 2 colleagues that I have with me. My first one is Dr. Minton here, who
Can I ask you a question?
Yes,
Chad?
Yes.
So on the funding side, the $3 million is the total project?
That's correct. That's for the well as well as some of the infrastructure related to that, such as piping and so forth.
Is the North Fork Special Service District going to be putting any money into it, or is it all state?
What we're requesting now, based on the ARPA money that's out there, is that this would be funded primarily by state and county. Now, the district is in a position where we can seek additional funding, but it would require raising rates further, which, as you've seen, already has high water rates now.
Okay.
I do want to introduce my 2 colleagues. Dr. Minton here is, he's a hero in our community in Utah Valley. He's a neonatologist, but he also, that's his full-time job. He also serves as the North Fork Special Services District chairman of the board. He's been a resident at Sundance since 1979 and actually helped establish the district back in 1979. So if we have any questions on the historical perspective or questions specific to the district, I'm grateful that Dr. Minton's here. He's cared for over 38,000 babies, maybe some that belong to people here in this room. So he's a very busy man, and I appreciate him being here with us because he brings a really helpful perspective with so much knowledge of the North Fork Canyon. In addition, I have David Stewart here with me, who is a legislative consultant that we've engaged with that's helping us in securing funding through the state. And if it's okay, David, may I just turn a little time over to you to kind of address where we're at with state sources and kind of coordinating that effort?
I think there's a link in Shirts that's also online that somebody has to accept in or something. He was zooming in, so I don't know who was in charge of that. He's in? All right, thanks. So yeah, to the point, as you guys are aware, there was a legislative special session recently, and several things were funded and several things were not. But one of the things that was funded was a pot of $50 million that was set aside as for a local match, to match with local dollars for different projects. And I worked closely with Mr. Schertz and others to kind of help set that up with the idea of different projects like this, where things that would qualify under ARPA that cities and counties could submit and what's currently, we're working to set up the portal and how all the criteria will work, but ultimately a local government, a city or a county, would need to be a sponsor and be willing to put up some money of their own, and then obviously there'd be a match from that $50 million fund. It'll obviously be oversubscribed. There'll be a lot more requests than the 50 million, but the thought was that this could be a unique and a great project for that. And so in working with the North Fork Special Service District as well as Sundance to figure out the best way forward. And so as those criteria are getting developed, we just kind of mostly wanted to put it back on your radar that it is out there, that, as my understanding was, there was some interest, but the tourism funding didn't really work. Now with some of this ARPA funding, especially, and also with the state, and a focus really from the feds on water development and things like that, whereas currently in this canyon, obviously, as you know, there's a moratorium, and this would help lift that moratorium. We think would be a unique opportunity to leverage some state dollars with some of your local county dollars. So that's kind of a quick thumbnail. I mean, as far as the timing, we're currently been meeting this week. We're meeting next week to develop the criteria with the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget, as well as the Governor's Office of Economic Development, to set up exactly the criteria, the portal, how it'll work. Anticipate sometime later this summer that'll be up and running. We'd then be back saying, okay, let's fill out the application, and here's what the match would be like, what the county would be asked to put up, and what the state, if this project's selected, would fund that gap, if you will, to get to the $3 million. So that's kind of a quick overview.
Ted, could you recap the position your committee is in with the current water access?
Well, if I understand your question, meaning the entire canyon has a building moratorium, so no further connections are being granted. That's been the case for the past 2 years. So whether that's a residential user looking to build a cabin, a second home, a first home there, or it's a commercial such as Aspen Grove, Cirque Lodge, Sundance, no further water connections are currently being offered. So obviously this puts, tax revenue and future opportunity in that canyon at risk. Yeah, so I think that's the real driving factor here.
Is it stopping construction or uses of the existing facilities right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
How much of a rough estimate percentage?
Well, I can't speak to how many residential customers have been delayed in building projects. Maybe, I don't know if Dr. Minton would have an answer to that. But as it relates to, I can speak better for Sundance. I think everyone knows that we're under new ownership. We do have development plans in the works, and some of those projects could be somewhat in jeopardy without this additional water source. But maybe I could call on Dr. Minton. Would you just want to spend, if he could maybe just take a minute or two and just, again, he has such an incredible historical knowledge. Maybe you could speak to the importance of this, what they've kind of seen coming for a while.
What he's trying to say is I'm old, and I've lived up there a long time. When I moved in 1979, it seemed like water was coming out of 150 springs. Water was everywhere. I never, ever thought that water would be an issue. Now we have 2 springs, and we don't have enough water. And it's more than just connections for new construction. We're concerned about fire right now. The fire danger has gone up throughout the West, as you know, and it takes about 450,000 gallons to fight a single house fire. Our total storage is about 1.5 million. And so if we got any kind of a fire, we would try to contain it. We would not be trying to save homes that are up there. A well gives us, it's the cheapest way to get a reservoir rather than build tanks and so on. And it gives us ability to be able to continue with construction and people who have bought their homes. In the last year, we've had 6 people who applied that we had to turn down. And as you know, turning a person down who wants, that's their dream, it's their child, and turning them down is it's very difficult. And in addition, with the things that are happening at Sundance, a well is really the way to fly. From the district's point of view, in order to build a well, we have to do a bond, and in order to get the bond, we need a certain amount of cash. We've raised our rates, and that's part of the reason why there's the highest around. And it will take us at least 3 years to get enough cash in order to be able to bond. And so right now, it's going to be a significant delay in order to be able to do that.
So can I ask you a question? You're the chairman, right, of the board?
I'm the chairman of the board of directors.
So this has been coming for some time. You've seen this coming. Has the district prepared, and I go back to the financial side, you've had to have prepared somehow towards doing something different with, is there monies that you put away, to do something different? And I'm asking this question because I'm seeing, the $1.5 million from Utah County matching from the state, and I'm wondering if there's any money that the district can put into it as well that you've been doing over the years preparing for something like this.
Well, we're kind of an unusual spatial service district in that we're relatively small. We have a large a commercial user of Sundance, and we have an Aspen Grove, and then we have about 120 homeowners. And so we have been taxing them for water and wastewater and fire, and we really taxed pretty much what we can do. We have a capital improvement. We do have a capital improvement. When we inherited the water system from Sundance and Mr. Redford in 1982, it was about 30 years old. We're now well over 50 years in a water system, and so we've been building our capital improvement, and then we have a line that goes down, and we spend $60,000 to lay a new segment in it. Or build a new storage facility, or do the wastewater. And so we have been robbing Peter to pay Paul for years. We have capital improvement in both fire and water, and we try to put a certain amount into that. But it will take us 3 or 4 years in order to be able to get to a point to be able to even start to address the issue.
I mean, because I see this fits so squarely into the intent of the ARPA funds that, it would, for me personally, it just fits. I mean, it's it's an easy one for me to look at and say, I get it, I got it. I just always want to ask those questions because I think there's some validity to having skin in that game as much as possible. And I figured there was probably some planning there going on, but it sounds like the planning going on was trying to maintain as much as possible. And I get that too. And I understand that. I just wanted to kind of understand where this was coming from.
But we do have capital improvements that are trying to address both replacement of the system.
Sure.
I mean, we have a fire department that's up there, and that fire department has received very high grades because to get Provo or Orem there, the house is gone. The 20 minutes that our fire department adds to it has saved multiple houses. But it's expensive to have that fire department for a small community, but it's really important.
Yep.
I've got a couple of questions for you. On your capital projects, do your water rates pay for the capital projects, or does your tax as a special service district, does that feed into the capital projects?
Well, we have been limited on the amount of money that comes in by our taxes, and it doesn't do very much toward the projects that we're really talking about. It's a maintenance, and so we have added in fees and all kinds of stuff trying to get to it. However, as you all are keenly aware, raising anything means that the people are there wanting to know how every single penny is. And we haven't done a great job of educating people because they look at their taxes and say, I'm already paying for fire in Provo, and now I'm paying for fire at Sundance. Why do you need more money than that? I mean, I'm already paying more than anybody around.
The reason I ask in particular is just because Aspen Grove would be tax exempt and they don't pay into that. And so I was wondering if fees are paying for those capital projects.
We have charged Aspen Grove fees.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
It's really, but it's really relevant. The fees go to exactly what the use is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we have tried not to cost shift. You all understand the issues related with cost shifting.
Maybe I could add one thing. Dr. Minton. So now with my Sundance hat on, the water rate increases have cost Sundance a lot more money. I'm not going to say what that is because we're a private business, but it's a considerable amount we're paying in more for the water compared to where we were a year or two ago. So to your quick question, Commissioner Lee, in many ways, the commercial users and the residential users are paying for this. But as Dr. Minton said, it would be a 3-year plan to get to where we need to be. And we just feel like waiting those 3 years isn't wise.
I just wanted an understanding of kind of how the process worked within the organization.
Right.
And I think also considering a drought, waiting 3 more years to start the project in a drought. And you're absolutely right, Commissioner Lee. I think this fits right along what the ARPA funds are for.
And how many residencies are there?
We have about 140
140?
buildable lots up there. Not all of them have been built
Well,
upon.
built on residencies.
Yes.
How
We
many
have
are
about
built?
120.
120 homes that
Yes.
are built.
Yes.
Okay.
And as was mentioned, a major project up there is conservation. We have been pushing people to conserve. The interesting part of that is as they conserve, they use less water and then they pay less money in. And so you have actually less money to work with, but it's the right thing to do.
Right.
And so it's
So I think we've covered what we need to, and again, we're sensitive to the time you've given us. Thank you very much, and again, I appreciate Dr. Minton, David Stewart being here with me, and we're here to be a resource. We'd love to coordinate efforts, as you said, to qualify for these ARPA funds. So please let us know however we can assist, and thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, that's the end of our work session. Any public comments, general public comments? Any online? No? Okay. Seeing none, then we will move into our closed meetings. Thank you.
As we move into closed meetings, I'm wondering, the reason I didn't want to delay